Hi, and welcome to Bridging the Gap by the Fashion Museum. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking to a renowned fashion designer that's known for using beautiful textiles such as Akwete, Aso Oke, and different prints. If you thought Lisa Folawiyo, then you were right. Join me in welcoming her today. Thank you for joining us today in the Fashion Museum. Thank you so much. You already know the drill. This is just us having general conversation about fashion and the creative process behind it. And now you've also managed to champion the fashion industry in Africa and the world at large through your beautiful design.
No, thank you for saying that. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, happy to share.
Awesome. Thank you. So let's get started. Yeah. So obviously I'm a fashion enthusiast, but for the people that are watching this particular segment for information about business or how to successfully run a fashion line, can you please just give us a brief overview of who Lisa is? Who is Lisa Folawiyo?
Who is Lisa Floyd? Me, Lisa. Oh gosh, easiest question, but usually the hardest to answer. Who is Lisa Folawiyo? Well, I mean, I guess start describing myself as a mother of two beautiful grown-up children, married to a wonderful man. I was born in Lagos. My father is from Ogbomoso in Oyo State, so I'm an Ogbomoso girl. My mother, who is late, is from, I would say is, because she's still around me, is from Trinidad and Tobago. Well, but we're all Africans, aren't we? At the end of the day. Yeah, but yeah, so born in Lagos, grew up in Lagos, schooled from my nursery to law school, all through in Lagos. And here I am, the creative director, founder of this brand that I guess the focus is on today. I am creative and I have great passion for what I do. As we go, I guess more about me will reveal itself.
Yeah. Yeah. So in terms of you growing up, is this something that has always been a part of who you are?
In terms of my pull towards fashion, I think that came from an innate desire to express myself through clothing, through I guess maybe my style approach in life. Since I can remember, I know that I have been quite particular, and I guess that comes from, or that came from my mom. Particular about the way I presented myself to the world in terms of my fashion choices and so on and so forth. And so I feel like, you know, there was a pull towards fashion design, even though I studied law and practiced as a lawyer for a very short period of time, though, but I did practice. But it was an organic pull. I always tell people that I believe fashion found me. It was a time where I was sort of in that space where, I'm practicing law, but I didn't feel completely fulfilled. I always say I hadn't practiced for long enough to perhaps decide I wasn't completely fulfilled. But at that point in time, I knew that I needed to do something else, express myself in a different way. And I think that just, I've always been more creative. And it's interesting because it's something that I do hear about lawyers, particularly who tend to, pivot into the more creative, a more creative field. So maybe it's something in our brains. I don't know. But I did know that there was a swaying towards fashion. And so making that choice and the decision to pursue fashion design as a career for myself without having any formal training, I always say must be something that came from within. And, I wanted this. I wanted to have a say in fashion, especially in Nigeria to begin with. And, because I just felt that at that point in time, the fashion space wasn't speaking the language that I wanted it to speak or I understood. And I felt like, there was that gap. And sometimes the best thing for you to do is to fill that gap. And I took that decision, and I'm still hopefully doing it and doing it was.
Absolutely. I mean, thank you. Very well said. I feel like you're quite humble in the sense that your brother is 20.
Imagine that.
How exciting is that?
It's really it's exciting. It's daunting as well, but it's 20 years. It sometimes feels like we just started yesterday. But yeah, 20 years, yeah, lots to look forward to, God willing. Yeah, we're excited. We hope to celebrate and mark it. I'm not one for, you know, marking moments. I find with the brand. I just keep it moving. You just keep it moving. But I think 20 years is significant. And you have to stop sometimes and give yourself a pat on the back. So I guess at 20 years I'll be doing that. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
So when do you turn 20?
I cannot remember the month. Um, we had our first show. Um, I think it's August 2005, if I remember correctly. But yeah, so we mark it this year and we'll mark it, in October, usually during Fashion Week.
Mm.
Yeah, with a show of sorts.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to that.
I think you should look forward to that. I'm looking forward to it because we haven't fully planned out exactly what we're doing, but I do want to do something special, something that, yeah, we celebrate us.
I think you have one like OG status. Like, I mean,
Well, thank you,
DK
Pasima.
you started the brand at a time where, I mean, fortunately, Nigeria has gotten to a point where we're known for our cuisine in terms of, jollof rice and suya and all these things. And then finally Afro beats as well. Exactly. So everywhere you go now, you're Nigerian music, which is a big thing. Yeah. And it's time for fashion to take its place. And I think we're actually literally getting to that point right now. So it's an exciting time, right?
For sure.
But when you started the brand, you were literally one of one. Like there weren't too many people that were starting or could even envision
Right.
that a time would come where we are today.
Yeah.
And so what was that like? First of all, having that conversation with your parents that, oh yeah, I went to law school.
Some, where I think of some people, it's funny. I think that, you know, as I said earlier, I think because I've always had this, I call it a love affair with fashion, style, being very into my clothes. And I do think, telling my parents, expressing that I wanted to do this came as a surprise to any member of my family and even the people that were close to me. I don't think so because I've always dabbled not in fashion design, but dabbled with fashion, clothing, style. I used to like make magazines and I think and even in school, with I used to do fine art and then I used to do lots of writing. I always sort of express my creative side. And so me, deciding to do this was my parents didn't seem to have any issues with it, I think. And I thank God for the parents that I have who were always, always, always back me up with whatever I chose to do. As far as, I felt I had a strong, passion for it. As far as, I showed them or proved to them or, expressed my determination and, to go for it. I think my parents believed in me. So it wasn't too difficult to quickly shift. I wouldn't say shift, but just to make that choice and move in that direction. It really wasn't. But you were saying even earlier about when, I started and it was like one of one. It was definitely daunting. But you see, I find that once your mind, and well, for me, once my mind is focused, I am focused. It's a laser focus. So I don't think about anything else. I try not to even begin to what's the word? I don't I try to cut out whatever may seem like a limitation, a challenge or a deterrent. I'm focused. I want to do this. I feel like I can express myself through fashion. I feel like I can change the fashion landscape in Nigeria. I feel like this is the time to, use what we have to express ourselves with the resources we have, the materials, fabrics, textiles that come out of here with, you know, and that was my focus. My focus was I want to do this thing. I'm going to do this thing. So as challenging and lonely as it may have felt, um, I saw only one thing. I still see that. And we're still hopefully on course. Yeah.
So you talked about a lot of the inspiration and how at a young age you just knew that, well, relatively young, when you had finished law school, you had practiced for some time, just knew that you had to express yourself and you decided to take the plunge and you told me it's your passion.
Yes.
So the question here is why Ankara?
Why? Because I'm print focused. It's all about print for me. Always loved print. And I just felt like it was really truly affordable. It was accessible, so pretty. There's so many different prints and scales of print, which is important to me, and breathable cotton as well. I started with just simple tiered skirts and some tiered dresses, and the fabric really was the best weight. It was exactly what I wanted, and it was I use the word homegrown, local to us because it's readily available in our markets. It's fabric that we have worn and so familiar with. And I didn't know the history of Ankara when I started to use the Ankara fabric and where it came from. I grew up believing that was made in Nigeria, and indeed, I will say, when I started to design, I worked with the Nigerian wax. I don't think they're anymore. I don't think you can find. Yeah, see, that's what's happened to the textile industry here in Nigeria. It's just but Nigerian wax is a Nigerian wax textile fabric print company, and we used to buy because I will say I really wanted everything I did to be authentically Nigerian. And so we started with the lithium wax. And then we found that, other brands of Ankara were perhaps had maybe nicer prints or the quality was slightly better. And of course, you always try to raise the bar, especially with fashion. Quality is key. And then we started to explore other Ankara brands, But yeah, so the Ankara for me felt still does like it belongs to us here in West Africa. And that truly I think was the number one reason why it was the fabric I went for. Because like I said earlier, I wanted to create cool pieces that spoke to me but were made by me, by us, for us with what we have. And, all those elements have to, I guess, come together to equate to what I was pursuing at that point in time.
That's awesome. It makes so much sense. So obviously you saw this Ankara and you're like, I love this textile. Let's play around with this. Can you, for the sake of people that are looking to start a fashion line that don't quite understand what the process is like, and then also the process is different for everyone, depending on how, how or what inspires creativity.
Right.
Can you just kind of walk us through the creative process? Like how do you decide on making a piece?
Well, of course, it comes from and usually inspired by something, or sometimes it's maybe me wanting to say something, and we'll do that through, what we design. But I will say it starts with inspiration. It starts with, whether you're inspired by, for me, usually, I sort of go back, whether it's history or culture, or sometimes I remember there's a collection I've done where I saw someone on Kingsway, actually, in Ikwe, and it was a print top. I stopped the car, took a picture, and that sort of got my mind. Yeah, I know it's weird, but that's kind of how it works sometimes. So you're inspired by anything, everything, maybe what's happening in the country or in the world, and you want to express, yourself, through your designs. So for me, it's inspiration. I'm a Christian, and I always see God for my inspiration before every collection. I tend to just ask, God, for a while we chat, saying to him, what do you think? What should I do? And, sometimes, things drop in my heart, words drop in my heart, and I'm moved by that, inspired by that. I kind of, what is this saying? So number one inspiration is God, and then will, show me.
Initially, when you started, the brand was called Joe by Lisa,
Yeah.
and you later decided to rebrand, change it to Lisa Folawiyo.
When we were venturing beyond the shores of Nigeria, when we decided that, oh, we'll start to stock in other parts of, or be more accessible to the rest of the world. And so we had the show in New York, and just from the advice of people who were helping sort of direct and manage and guide us on this path. We all sat down and started talking about the names and just positioning generally, and the idea of having a autonomous label came up, and you know we thought about it and had a good ring to it, and but the main Jovalisa remains the brand name, and we have the labels such as Lisa Folawiyo, which is the collection that we usually have our custom prints in. If you sort of notice, it's usually what we do, and that's the brand I usually show on the runway. Drew by Lisa is like all the Ankara pieces, that is still all labeled Drew by Lisa. And we have the J label, which we haven't done in many years, but that was like the what's the word? I always forget what that word is. The diffusion line. We had two collections. We've done two collections of that, hoping to bring out another one because people are always asking because it's just a more accessible, more affordable brand. So yeah, so Juba Lisa remains the brand. Lisa Polario is a label within the brand.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. And something that I had mentioned earlier when we were talking about the various textiles and how you started using Akwete, for example, at some point, and how it's the women in particular that weave these textiles. Obviously that was like a dying market in terms of at some points we had stopped actually weaving, but then now people are using Akwete more, and it's almost like the market
I didn't even know that.
divide.
I didn't know that it was. I didn't know that they had stopped weaving the Akwete. This is out of the history I didn't know. So thanks for that. Yeah, no, you're educating me. Thank you for that. Yeah. So wonderful, wonderful that, and that is part of what the fashion industry is doing.
Yeah.
So it's about the whole like value chain. It's not, it's beyond just designing these beautiful clothes. It's about community. It's how we are having this positive impact and effect on different communities. I mean, like these are queer women who now there's demand for what they do.
Right.
And that for me is like the beauty of it all as well. Or part of the beauty of, this industry and the growing industry that we see happening. Yeah, it's just how each um part of what's the word? The chain is being positively impacted, affected. And yeah, it's great. It's great to see that and be a part of that. And yeah,
That's great. Absolutely. And so obviously that's women empowerment because in job, job opportunities, then Now they can feed their families, and that's awesome to be associated with that. To associate your brand with that.
Yeah, I've always had like a passion. So, for example, I have like a team of leaders, in fact, teams of leaders, and they're all made up of women, intentionally so. But also, a lot of the women who, I mean, they sort of, I've had girls been in the gym for 20 years, and, you know, some are now married with their own children, and they're still feeding and happy to do so. But we've got a lot of women who have come from really disadvantaged backgrounds, sexual workers. We've even worked with a charity, you know, non-governmental organization, Genesis House, where you had girls who were more or less exposed to the streets, who had no other hope, and they were taken into Genesis House, and um, the this brand was one of their, I guess, where they learned a skill, and they partnered with them, and so I have so many girls, so many of them who are either still here or they now have their own families and they're doing really wonderful things and they keep in touch, and that's it, empowering them and just changing their life story, to the extent that we can, yeah, I'm very passionate, very, very passionate about that.
Obviously, like I said earlier, you had Uji in the industry now. 20 years.
But you, G, my life, this is no easy. No easy feat for sure. G, get a ticket. I take it.
So with that being said, obviously it gets to a certain point, even in life in general, regardless of business, you just sit down and you reflect and you start to think about legacy, right? So in terms of that, like what legacy would you want to leave behind with these Folawiyo studios?
Hmm. It was Mike Tyson that said recently, why are we all so vain? Why do you want to leave a legacy? Like, do what God sends you to do and keep it moving.
That is legacy.
Well, you know what? Does it have a thing like funny? But when he said it, we were like, okay, wait. It's like vanity of life. Like you leave and then you want people to continue to remember you. She did this.
You work here for a reason.
But yeah, and legacy, God willing. I, look, I wake up every morning and I say, bless the name of the Lord, because I have such great passion for what I'm doing. I have such great passion. And and that is where my mind is. And in terms of legacy, um, I don't know. I just want to keep on doing what I'm doing, and I love what I'm doing, and I'm passionate, and I love to create, and I love to design. Many people can decide what the legacy I left. I don't know, but
Fair enough.
yeah. In fact, conversation like that, they're like
Heavy.
heavy, and it's guys. Listen, guys. But 20 is, but you know what? 20 feels like yesterday.
It does. I don't always feel like
Feels like yesterday. Like, honestly. So, I mean, I rambled on a bit, but it's not something that is, on my mind. I feel like I'm doing the work, and I want to believe that the work speaks for itself. So, yeah, that's where we're at.
fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. That makes sense. And that's perfectly fine, right? Like you said, everybody has their own interpretation as well of what that would look like. So
Exactly.
just to continue fully right. Okay, so in terms of emerging designers, do you have like 3 practical steps that you take for one that's looking to start a business today?
A fashion
A
business.
fashion business in particular.
I have a strong point of view because I feel like, what is it you really want to say? Why are you doing this? What really is your aesthetic going to be? How do we identify you? I just feel like, and this is the thing with fashion design, it's about what is your idea? Not, I just want to do fashion because it looks like a simple thing or an easy way to make money, but it's, what is your point of view? What is the integrity to design that you have? What are you trying to say? Through this means, right? So have a strong point of view and let us have that thing that will be easily identifiable with you as a designer in terms of your style, your aesthetic, you know. Not only am I inspired by what I want to do, but also the prints, based on maybe like this last collection was sports inspired, and what did sports mean to me? What is sports saying? If we looked at it, not only the physical act of being involved in the sports, but what is the idea of sports? Like, it's a race of life. It's reaching for goals. It's competition. It's looking to your left or to your right. Who is running this competition with you? What are you doing? How are you getting to the end? How are you starting? And all those things. So I all those questions were in my head, and for me, the collection was sort of what was happening, in that journey of life. And let's stop. Let's take time to not, be so. Let's take time to enjoy this race that we are all on, because that's really, especially today, it's crazy. So I mean, it's so fast, and there's so much fierce competition in everything. You know what I'm saying? So so the collection was about that, and that's why the colors, and there was a lot of movement with the fringe detailing. And if you see some of the prints, you'll see lots of stripes, because for me it's like, like racetracks. And then we also went with the Io print, for example. We focus on Io, the sport of Io, which is, when we did our research, it's like one of the only sports that come out that originated from Nigeria. And that was very important to me, because I always try and connect what I'm doing to who I am, because then, identity is so key. Yeah, so IO is one of the focuses of this collection, the IO game. And yeah, and that was and so, inspiration expressed that through the print. My designs, I start to sketch. Um and I start to sort of sketch along the lines of sports. So we have a lot of shapes that I'm has that to describe now. But when like shape of the stadium, so you have like an oval shape. We have different things that, for me, in my head, not everybody just speaks sports. And so from my sketching to my sampling, in terms of, I do my calico samplings, just cotton fabric. I start to see how things are working. I edit, I cut out, I change, I sketch again. And then when I feel right, I've got a sweet spot, then I start to do proper fittings on models. And we continue to edit and edit and edit until, and in this time, prints, I'm designing prints with the textile designer. I work with a fantastic textile designer who's from Nigeria. And we do that because we're a print focused brand. Prints are so key for every collection. And so we do that. And while sampling my designs, I'm also making sure the prints are aligning with all my designs. We do a lot of embellishment. This is the time that I start to look at colors. I start to think about how we're going to embellish things. And then once we get to that place where I'm feeling, quite comfortable, um, I start to, my prints, usually my fabric, my textiles arrive. I'm weaving fabric, which we did for this fabric, for this collection that's already underway. And once fabric is here, you start to create the pieces. I'm still editing stuff because, sometimes when you see it in the allocated prints and fabrics, maybe it's not working and we change things around. I said model fittings, we edit, get to that point. I never said I'm never, but I'm happy. I get to the point where I'm happy. And well, no, I am satisfied, but I feel like I always know there's so much more I can do, but perhaps time and so on and so forth doesn't allow. But I always make sure I'm happy, I'm content. We've got to a place where everything that I want to say has been said, and the people that see the collection will be inspired. I'm able to transport you somewhere, and I'm able to connect you with the story. And yeah, and then, with it, we're happy. Everything's good. We've casted models. Um, and then let the show begin. And if I've left anything else, ah,
I give us the big feels. I think we get the general idea. And it's interesting because I was talking to someone recently. And I was just talking about, I mean, I'm looking at things from outside in, right? And I just look at what it takes to create a collection. And every single year, I look at your collection and I'm like, she has put so much effort into this. And I've literally described it as a baby. I feel like you hear birth with every single collection
I love
because
that. Yeah, and I always say the brand is like my baby that I'm just looking after and nurturing, year after year after year. So yeah, that you describe every collection like that. Yeah, because I do put heart and soul in process. It is a birthing process that it will comes with, it comes with so much, but I mean, like having a baby, you go through the birth pangs, but when the baby is here, very excited, the baby is a better, right? So that's exactly how it is.
absolutely. And I say all that to ask this question because like a baby, you're not biased. Like you love all your children, right? So the question is obviously the last collection was beautiful. They do sports and everything like I mean like it's amazing how you thought about the start process, life, like the journey is so
Yeah.
amazing. But with that being said, what's your favorite collection?
To give till days. You know what? That is, I don't have one. I promise you. So I was at a dinner a few nights ago, and someone was wearing a piece from a really old, I think a collection we did maybe 2013, 20, spring summer 2013, 2014. And I creating the collection was I loved it. I liked the collection. I loved the collection. I remember seeing it on the runway, and I just like I said, and so I'm being very gentle to myself or on myself when I say it's just a personality thing. I'm never fully satisfied. I always feel I could have given more. But this is a collective. I do that with every collection. Um, I hope I keep on doing that because then there's more to do, of course, But I remember this collection, and I particularly was like, "Hmm, I could have done this, I could have done that." However, so at this dinner, the lady was wearing it, and people were, "Oh, beautiful!" And I loved seeing it on her, and she was like, "Gosh, this was for her the best collection." My goodness, blah blah blah. So I was like, so I sat back, and I was just, and someone else chimed in the conversation, and I was just like, interesting, that you guys would have this thought. And I'm there thinking, how do I feel about this? Hmm, I don't have a favorite. I don't, because every collection means something and comes from somewhere. Perhaps and I think with every collection, I always want to do better. Which maybe I try with the next collection, but then I still want to do better than that. But everything from me comes from somewhere, and it's a process. And I give it my all. I give it everything. And so because of what goes into it, as opposed to what it is when it's done, I think it's because of what goes into it that I cannot choose one over the other. Because I'm as immersed and devoted to every single collection that, has come out of the brand. Passion, authenticity, consistency. I think people, because, look, you're putting yourself out there in the world. The world can be cruel. But when, and like I said earlier, beauty is in the eye of beholder. So first of all, know that not everyone's going to love you, but if you're authentic and consistent and you have your point of view, people will come to respect you believe in you, trust you. And that is what you want a consumer to do. And then, of course, there's so much more, the business of it, you know, have a thick skin.
Yeah.
Have a very thick skin. Fashion is not for the faint-hearted. No, not at all. It's not. It's not for the faint-hearted. It's like I said, you put yourself out there to be rated or slated. But believe in yourself, and this is who we are. Brand ethos, like is about, and so we now that grows with your brand in terms. So I think about things like, for us, it's culture, it's community, consistency is part of our brand ethos, excellence is part of our brand ethos. And just that those are the things that we value. Those are the things that sustainability over the years, even though it's what we've always done, but of course, reintroduced to the world, and we realize, my God, this is what we actually practice. We've been doing. So it is part of our brand ethos. And these are the things that mean so much to us. And these are the things that if you come in contact with the brand, you should get a sense of a feel of, yeah. And so, like you said, what is that thing that people can identify with your brand, speaks about your brand, and yeah, you know, articulate that through the clothes.
You mentioned something about sustainability. So sustainability is like a buzzword now. Like,
I'm always like, please don't ask me about that. But it's a fact. These are real facts. So as much as the word irritates me, and there was a time I was like, you know what I mean? But it's true. And so what we do, and we've always done in Africa, is we've just we make more carefully considered clothing. And so it's always been our practice, and then now we can say, yeah, we were there before you.
yeah, so welcome.
Welcome.
But we find that now people are leaning more towards that. And then now people are looking for that because now someone that maybe made a purchase like what, 17 years ago can bring that same piece and say, can we upcycle?
Exactly that.
That you do.
Like, yeah, we do. We do. We will, we take old pieces and we change them up a little bit. We fix them up if that's what you want. We have like old fabrics that we've had just sitting, and we will remake things, create small drops of collections just from old stock. Oh, I mean, only recently we introduced, because we did a collection some time ago and found out we had so much fabric, and we're like, oh wow, okay, what's happening here? I said, yeah, let's do something new. Let's start this Forever Loved series of pieces. And I just took it from the word pre-love, but so we're dropping series of collections. So fabric that we've had in the past. So
Is be online or is this just something that
it will be available to all,
okay.
accessible to all.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You
We'll
look like
see it. Yeah, it's happening. It's happening. We've not made enough noise. So probably you hear about it.
okay. So that's good. You're here for it. Okay, so well, this has been an amazing time. Thank you so much. You want us through sustainability. You talk about
To the extent that you will.
yeah, and talk about the economic impact of fashion. We've talked about ways we can improve the system. We talked about the ethos of the business. Or we can talk about, the longevity of the business as well. So definitely I'm sure our viewers have learned a thing or two about how to
So you always hope to inspire and just So I hope we've done a good job.
yes, I think we've thoroughly covered most bases.
Excellent.
And we've even gotten some parenting advice in there somewhere.
Swim there somewhere. Thank you so much for having me. I had a great time.
Awesome. All right. Look forward to working with you in the future.
Indeed.
All right. Thank you.
Why not? Thank you.